What's up, guys? I'm Michael, and I'm gonna be going over the rules of Foursquare.
What's up, guys? I'm Sawyer, and with the game Foursquare, as you can see, there are 4 squares that you have to stand in. King, queen, jack, trap. That's the name Foursquare, of course. And always you rotate, enter into the Foursquare, and then you move up depending on when people get out. So, pretty simple to understand.
So the goal of the game is to get everybody else out and move to the king square. So there are 3 main ways that you can get out. The first one is if the ball bounces multiple times in your square. It can only bounce 1 time in your square. The second way is if the ball bounces into your square and then out of your square. If that happens without you touching it, you are out. And then the third major way to get out is if you hit the ball out of bounds, so outside of a square. That is another way to get out.
So, when it comes to starting a round of Foursquare, basically whoever's in the king spot will always start with something called the gentleman's serve, where you bounce the ball once and you hit it. But you always have to hit it to the person diagonally across the third zone. And then once you hit that ball, that is just game on. You play with each other and just keep going until somebody gets out, right? And then once someone gets out, they leave the area and they join the line, and whoever is first in line comes in and throws in the king spot. And from there, it just repeats.
All right, so now we're gonna be going over some more advanced rules. These can get kind of confusing, so you have to rewatch this part of the video. Make sure that you understand these. So the first things first, no overhands are allowed. Everything should be underhand hits. This makes the game far more competitive and makes it so that people can't just wham it and there's nothing you can do about it. So an overhand is defined by any hit where the angle of contact is greater than 90 degrees. So this is an underhand, whereas this is an overhand. Now, it can get kind of confusing because this is still an overhand. Somebody's contacting it, from an angle greater than 90 degrees.
Okay, so another important thing we need to talk about are lines. So there's 2 types of lines in this game, inside lines and outside lines. So the inside lines right here, which define the boundaries of what a square is. If the ball ever hits a line and isn't fully in one side or the other, it is considered out of bounds, and whoever hit the ball is out. Why do we do that? Well, if there's a line like that, then who do we define which square is in and all that kind of stuff? So for simplicity's sake, if it hits a line that's inside the game, you're out. However, when we're talking about the out of bounds lines that border the edge of gameplay, if it hits there, that's considered in. So it's only fully out once it does not hit any line that borders the area of play. Meaning if you hit a line like here, you're still in, and whoever it is out.
Okay, so now we're gonna be going over an advanced technique called bus stops. Bus stops are completely allowed and they really revolutionize the game, allowing for more complex offensive strategies. So, the core rule that bus stops depend on is that the ball has to touch your square at least 1 time per possession. Meaning if the ball comes to me high, I cannot just hit it out of the air. That is not allowed. I would be out in that case. Instead, I have to do what's called a bus stop. So a bus stop is where I hit the ball, I let it bounce, and then I hit it again. Okay, so let's demonstrate that one more time. So I hit the ball, let it bounce, and hit it again. That's completely legal. You still have to follow underhand rules in the actual hit, but the bus stop could be whatever you want. And so that allows you to do more offensive plays like bus stop it here, and then slide it out. Things like that. So, let your imagination run wild, but that's the core of a bus stop. So along with bus stops, something that you have to be careful about is not to roll the ball. So a roll is defined by the ball moving just straight up across the ground. You can identify it by not hearing the classic bounce. You can hit the ball real low, like that, completely legal. But if I were to do it and then roll, that is not legal. You would be out if you roll.
So when it comes to the actual square part of Foursquare, a big emphasis is we want to stay in our squares until the ball has hit your square itself. What do I mean by that? If the ball is coming this way, once it makes that contact with the ground, you're kind of free to roam around a little bit. In addition, you're allowed to kind of jump out to try to save a ball, as long as you're not stepping in someone else's square before it hits the ground, and you're allowed to reach over to someone else's square as well, the same thing. After it hits the ground one time your square, you're free to move around. I mean, your momentum might carry you to go somewhere else. Please remember, Foursquare is not a contact sport, so you don't need to be boxing each other out or play defensive anyways to make sure that somebody doesn't get a ball.
Okay, so now we need to talk about our bodies. So in Foursquare, any body part is allowed. You can hit the ball with whatever you want, but it counts as a touch. Same way you're touching with your hand. An all the same rules of hitting with your hand apply. So that includes bust stops, that includes no overhands. It's all about the angle of contact. But if you want to bust stop with your chest and then hit it again, completely allowed. If you want to bust stop and then kick the ball, completely allowed. The big thing is do not have an angle of attack that's greater than 90 degrees because that would still be considered an overhand, even if it's an overfoot or an over chest.
All right, and finally we need to talk about carries in this game. So carry is defined as making more than momentary contact with the ball and is not allowed when playing sports. What do we mean by that? So if I get a ball like this to me, if I just slap it, that's okay. It might have been over. That's cool. However, if someone throws it to me and I go like that, I made a kind of control with it and I just sort of carried the ball. That is not allowed, all right? So if you do that, you're out of the game. So make sure you immediately release contact with the ball as soon as you touch it.
All right, guys, well, those are pretty much all the rules of Foursquare. So if you have any other questions to that, be sure to ask your RA. But most importantly, have fun and boiler up. No.